Hi there, and welcome to I'll Knit If I Want To. I'm Andrea Mowry of Andrea Renee Knits, and this is a weekly podcast where I try my best to answer some of your questions about knitting. Lately, a little bit about spinning, although I will say I still consider myself a novice on that front, and sometimes other things. So today I am wearing my DRK everyday sweater. This is one of my absolute favorites, hence why it's the everyday sweater. We are finally getting some pretty delightful weather here. I wouldn't quite call it summer weather, but it's my preferred weather because it's not too hot. It's still pretty cool. We're just kind of hanging out in the late 60s. Those late 60s, high 60s, low 70s. And we are still due for a ton of rain, just so much rain, but today it's sunny and beautiful. So I'm actually hoping to get out for a walk after I wrap this up, and I'll show you what I hope to be knitting on my walk in a little bit. But first, let's go ahead and jump into some questions. This, if you're curious, is knit out of Mountain Meadow wool, and this is their marled sport weight yarn, and it is one of my favorites. It's a great workhorse yarn that has worn so well. I mean, this is one of my most worn sweaters. It's my go-to when I don't know what I want to wear because I know that I'll be happy in this. And it has had very little pilling. There's like a tiny bit in those high friction areas, but it's just worn beautifully. So highly recommend. All right, let's jump into some questions. And then I've got a desk full of fun things to show you. So question number 1 is about the amount of ease in a sweater or cardigan. I'm just gonna, there we go. I have a couple of simple sweaters under my belt and want to venture into doing more sweater knitting. I love to wear a shirt or turtleneck underneath my sweaters and never button a cardigan. I do like a cardigan to come together at the front with some overlap though. I know most patterns have a certain amount of ease that is already figured into it and was wondering if there is an amount of ease I need to be looking for, or do I just go up a size to make room for that shirt underneath? So this is, I think, such a great question because what I'm immediately noticing is that this specific knitter is really thinking about what they want to wear and how they want to wear it. And that can be a really easy thing to just glance over when you're excited and at the beginning of a project. So I love the consideration here of like, how will I actually wear this sweater? So for instance, the sweater I'm wearing right now, it probably has 0 ease. I actually don't know off the top of my head because it's been a while since I made this one. But this is not a sweater I typically wear layered over anything besides like a camisole. I tend to wear a little tank top underneath. But I can wear it over a collared shirt, which I'll do sometimes in the fall when I just need that extra layer. But my point being, this sweater, which I did not intend to necessarily layer, I can, but I didn't intend to. I wanted less ease. I didn't want it to fit too baggy since I knew primarily I would just be wearing it over a little tank top. But if I know, okay, I'm gonna wear this over a flannel, or this knitter likes to wear them over a shirt or a turtleneck, when you already have that information, you do want to make sure that you have enough space, especially like in the underarm. You don't want a really high up tight underarm that doesn't accommodate your maybe ready to wear turtleneck or other shirt that you bought that might have a lower underarm. So it's really good to kind of take that into consideration. This is my really long-winded way of saying, what I actually recommend is going to your closet and finding a sweater you love that maybe you already wear over the shirts you like to layer with and measuring that sweater, because that's going to tell you an amount of ease you like, and then you can look for that in the pattern that you're going to knit. Make sure that if they don't have the finished sweater measurements listed, let's say in the front of the pattern, there's usually some details there, make sure you go to the schematic on that pattern and look at what the actual sweater measurement should be at the end, not how it fits on your body, but the actual measurements of the sweater, because that's what you're going to want to be comparing. So for me personally, I always list the sweater measurements in the pattern instead of adding the ease in for you, unless there's a very specific reason why I have to go the other route. So on page 2, where I list details, or on the pattern pages on Ravelry or my website, or on the schematic, the first number I would look at is that finished bust or chest circumference, and see with, now take your body measurement. So let's say this sweater has a 36-inch bust body circumference, and I'm around a 34-inch bust body circumference, then I know that this has 2 inches of ease on me. So you can take your body measurement, then take the measurement of a sweater you love that already works really well for layering, do the math, figure out how much positive ease that is, and then look at the measurements in your pattern to make sure you're getting that same amount of ease that you like. Always keep in mind, yes, there is an amount of ease that the designer recommends. So maybe peek at how that sweater is fitting the person that they photographed it with. What was the designer intending? Because what I have heard in the past is sometimes people just go, well, I really like oversized. And so they'll approach any sweater pattern by just jumping up multiple sizes from their own. And they don't always like the outcome. And that's because not all sweaters are meant to be oversized. So sometimes when a sweater is meant to be an oversized look, there's still components to it that make it fit and drape on your body the way that we would like it to, where it is going to fit around your neck comfortably, around your arms comfortably, even if then it has a lot of oversized action going on. So that doesn't always just translate into going up a whole bunch of sizes. So that's just an added note to kind of pay attention to what was the designer attempting with that pattern, and making sure that it fits your own personal style and how you like to wear your clothes. I just really went on a tangent with that one. But at the end of the day, I recommend going to your closet and measuring a sweater that you already really like. It's such a great jumping off point. It's the same thing I recommend when we're gift knitting. Every single time I knit or sew something for my husband, I go into his closet when he's not paying attention and I measure a piece that I know he loves the fit of. And that's what I go on. Even, I don't default to those old measurements either. I'll kind of update those every time I'm gonna do it, just in case he has a new favorite. All of our style changes as the years go on. So it's just a really great way to kind of start estimating what you might like. I will throw out there though, if you're like, oh, I just really wanted you to give me like a number to start with. So I will say, if you like just a relaxed traditional fit sweater that you can wear over your shirt or your turtleneck, I would say 4 inches of positive ease is a really great jumping off point, or 10 centimeters, depending on which system you prefer. Whew, okay, I will try not to be quite so chatty with the rest of these. Just gonna take a quick sip of my coffee because it's so good. I'm excited to be embarking on knitting my first weekender sweater. Yay! I plan to use a 60% silk, 40% linen yarn. That sounds delightful. And I would love to know how this turns out for you, because I do get a lot of people asking what they can use, especially if they're in a warmer climate. They would love some non-wool options. So please come back and tell us how it works out for you. All right, so although this yarn is the same weight as what the pattern calls for, worsted, I'm wondering whether there are any pattern mods I should consider since I'm not using wool. I'm planning to knit a size 3 based on my size, but I have 26 yards less than what the pattern suggests for that size. Given that I'm short with short arms, I'm choosing not to worry, but I'm thinking of skipping swatching. I already know what you're going to say. Thank you so much for all your lovely, joyous, fun content. Oh, thank you for tuning in. Yes, I am going to say you need to swatch, especially because you are using a radically different yarn than what I used. So the main reason why I'm going to really push that it's really important for you to swatch is you need to see how much that silk linen blend is gonna grow, especially if you feel you're shorter with shorter arms. You might end up with a sweater dress that you weren't intending, and so you need to make sure to swatch. So I would actually recommend doing a large swatch, at least 6 by 6 inches, wet blocking that swatch and letting it dry completely, and then measuring. I'm definitely gonna urge you to measure pre-blocking and post-blocking, and the measurements I would take are your gauge, stitch and row, 4x4 inches or 10x10 centimeters, both post and pre. But also what I like to do, I'm actually working on a project right now that I know there may be growth due to the stitch pattern I'm using. So I think this is a good rule of thumb anytime, but especially if there could be a decent amount of growth, then I also just measure the total size of the swatch, so the width and the height. And I just put that in my knitting notebook, and then I measure again once it's dry. And that way you can get a percentage of growth. So you can see, okay, how much did this grow by, and do some quick math to be like, okay, I don't actually want to knit this to the 15-inch length for the back body like the pattern recommends, because my yarn choice is going to make this grow 15%. So I'm actually going to only knit to 13 inches knowing that growth is going to happen. Now, I know you're worried about already having a little bit less yardage, not too worried, but a little bit, hence wanting to skip swatching. I do put in a bumper so that you should be able to swatch and still have enough yarn. I don't think you're gonna run short, but the good news is, well, I would recommend swatching in the round for that pattern. I think for you, I would just swatch flat, even though it's better to swatch in the way that the pattern's knit. It's better to swatch in the round when the sweater's knit in the round. But just in case you need to be able to unravel that swatch, a flat swatch is definitely better than no swatch. So do a flat swatch, and that way you can unravel it if you end up needing it for that last couple inches on your last sleeve or something. But I think, honestly, I think you're gonna be fine. I don't think you're gonna run out of yarn. But good luck, and definitely let us know how it turns out. As I prepare to join in for the first time with Tour de Fleece, yay! I'm brainstorming and planning projects I could spin for new things I can learn. I'm a new spinner thanks to you and your spinfluence. It's like the second time I've heard that this week, and I kind of love it. Yay! The world needs more spinners and knitters. So now that you're doing it, make all your friends and loved ones do it too. Okay, and I'm wanting to try spinning a bat after working with multiple braids. If I applied a woolen single from a bat together with a worsted single from a braid, would strange things happen? You're always gushing about combo spins, and I'd love to know what kind of things play well together and what can make something not so knittable. So, a couple questions here. Just because the prep of the fiber is worsted or woolen does not mean you have to spin it worsted or woolen. So, for instance, this skein, freshly plied and dried, is one ply from a bat and one ply from a braid. So it's exactly what you're talking about. I did spin both of these in more of a worsted style. The bat, I did a little bit. There's so much nuance that can happen as you start spinning more and more and more. So as I was working on that bat, I was not doing a woolen draw per se. I wasn't doing long draw, but I was shown how to do almost like a modified woolen draw where I'm trying to think of how to describe it. So basically it's like a short backward worsted, but I do let the twist come into the fiber supply. So it's almost like a supported, but it's like this tapping motion where you feel like you have a little more control over it, and it's definitely not an unsupported long draw. So a nice way to kind of talk about these yarns is you're making like a semi-woolen or a semi-worsted, because there's some worsted things going on in there and there's some woolen things going on in there. You've got a woolen prep, but maybe you're going to do a short backwards draw on it that's going to give it a little bit more of that worsted spin to it. And I actually really like doing that because I feel like you get a little bit of both worlds, but it can also be very fun to stick to like true worsted, true woolen. So back to the point at hand, have you spun your bat yet? And are you planning to spin it long draw? Are you planning to do it as a woolen draw or not? Because you could just spin both the braid and the bat the same way. But yeah, there's nothing wonky going on with this yarn, even though I would say one is kind of like a semi-woolen ply and the other one was definitely more worsted. For my braid that I spun from, which was a Falkland, here it is all on its own without any of that bat in there. I had extra, so I wanted to see what that yarn would be like. I did take care, this is a long staple Falkland, and I knew that if I let too much twist go in there, it was gonna feel really, really coarse, and I wanted to keep it soft. So I did keep the twist on this pretty low. So what I'm saying is, go for it, try it out. If you're nervous, sample. So go ahead, spin your bat and your braid how you want to spin them, and then only ply together a few yards, wash it, knit up a little swatch, and just see if you like it. If you don't like it, worst comes to worst, you could always spin like that bat. You could turn it into a center pole ball and then just do a 2-ply from that center pole ball of just the bat. And that way you haven't married yourself to like, I must do this plan now. You can absolutely change your mind. But this was one of my show and tell. So this was a bat that I got from Crux Fibers. It was so beautiful. And forever, I just couldn't decide what I wanted to do with it. I didn't know if I wanted to ply it with itself or do a combo spin. And then my fiber club, maybe I showed you this last week, now that I'm thinking of it. Anyways, my fiber club from Hello Yarn came and I was like, oh my gosh, match made in heaven. So I know I hadn't finished the yarn yet by last week's episode. So here is the finished yarn. I have not gotten any of the specs on it today. Today, I have a pile of hand spun that needs to be documented and put into my spinning journal. So that's one of my to-dos for today. So I don't know the yardage or anything on this yet, but it's pretty hefty. I'm guessing between 500 and 600 yards in here, at least. But we shall see. So, next question. I am wondering, it's another spinning one. I am wondering what you do when you are done plying your hand spun and have leftover singles on one of your bobbins. I just finished my first 3-ply sock spin, but I have leftovers on a couple of the bobbins that I feel bad just throwing them out. The eternal question. What to do with the leftover? I mean, it's the one thing I do love about like chain plying, because you never have any leftovers on the bobbins, because I have the same struggle. I will do some things. So for instance, at the end of this spin, I really had a decent amount left on my bobbin that was spun from the braid from Hello Yarn. And so I did use my Nostipin. Is that how you say it? Nostipin? I don't know. I should look up words before I try to say them. But this little guy, I got this. This was one of my souvenirs when traveling. I got to teach at Soulcraft Festival in Melbourne, Australia years ago now, like 5 years ago now. And this was what I got at the festival, because sometimes, you know, you have enough yarn. So it's like, I want to get something special that I don't have yet. So anyways, this is great for making center pole balls. So you just wind your yarn down here. And I really like it for like the leftover of a bobbin, where I'm not going to try and go wind it on my Swift. It just is easy to boop, boop, boop. So I wound it onto here, and then I just took a ply from the middle and the outside and plied them together. And then I wound, after I washed it, I actually wound the finish yarn onto here. Isn't it cute? Anyways, and then I swatched it up. So that's one thing you can do too, because what I found after I did that was, oh man, do I love this yarn, and I am 100% gonna make a cardigan out of it. So I actually ordered a little bit more of this fiber, and I already have plans for how I'm gonna spin it and how I'm gonna knit it, and I am so excited. So that can be a fun way to use up the rest of a bobbin, is you did a 3-ply with that yarn, but maybe spin up a 2-ply and see what you think. The other thing I do when I'm like, I'm so over this spin, I wanna move on to the next one, is I put it on a toilet paper roll. And I have a lot of these. What will I do with them? I don't know. I think I have dreams of making a scrappy random yarn someday, but will I? I don't know, especially when there's a decent amount left. Sometimes I will just chain ply the last little bit, and again, swatch with it. You could keep it for color work. Could be really fun when you just need a little bit. I mean, sometimes you only need the tiniest amount for color work. So that could be something you could do, is you could chain ply the rest of it and then just keep them around to make scrappy projects. So color work, scrappy socks, bits of color in a shawl. But if anyone else has a better idea, I mean, I've got another one right here. I just finished a sweater spin, and this is a decent amount of fiber on there. And I got that day, I just didn't want to have to think about it, so I haven't even done anything with this one yet. But I will want that bobbin soon, so I'm gonna have to figure it out. So yeah, if anybody else has anything they do, let us know, because it adds up. And I don't want to just throw it away. That seems too sad. You compost it, I think, but I'm always curious if it matters the dyes. So we, here in Portland, we actually have curbside composting, and there you can put like anything. So I think they could take, I have thrown fiber in there. Because you can even do like lint from your dryer and stuff, but you wouldn't want to do necessarily any given fiber into like your garden compost if you compost at home, because those acid dyes are pretty toxic. So I wouldn't want those in my vegetable garden bed. Anyways, if anybody else has any really good ideas, please put them below so we can all learn, because I have got a basket of these and what am I going to do with them? I have seen some pretty amazing scrappy skeins that people have made with their odds and ends, which is what got me doing that. And the nice thing is you just keep your toilet paper rolls, and it's a great way to reuse them. Okay. Last question. What is the ideal length or place to separate for sleeves and body on a top-down round yoke sweater? I followed the pattern and measurements for the pink velvet sweater, but found that when I lift my arms, the whole sweater shifts on my body. And I think it's because the separation for the sleeves sits too low on me. Is there a way to know or measure where I should do the separation to better suit my measurements? Or is this just something unique to circular yoke sweaters? Thanks for your advice. So I think it's a really good intuition that it may just be that that division's a little low for you. I think we've all experienced that, especially with a round yoke sweater. It can also depend on the drape. If there's a lot of color work going on up top and not so much down below, I also find just the switch in that fabric can kind of cause some things to happen when like you're trying to lift your arms, but like, because you can see like with this, nothing's happening. It's staying in place the way we want it to. But if you've ever knit, there are some round yoke sweater patterns out there that have purposely really low yokes. They're more of like a swancho, and they will be very deep. And those are going to give you, some people call it like T-Rex arm sweaters, because they kind of hit a little too low, like a little too close to the elbow. And so it does do that body lift, which some people don't mind. Some people, it's not going to be comfortable for them. So pink velvet shouldn't fit that way. So definitely, I think for that one, I'm wondering if it is that the yoke is a little too low for you for it to fit comfortably, because that sweater should fit more like this one. So that is good information. I would measure the depth of that yoke and be like, okay, so that's too long for me. I need to go a little shorter than that. You can do the tip I gave the very first question, which is to go ahead and measure a sweater in your closet that does fit really, really well, to kind of start giving you an estimation. You're probably going to find that there's a range of yoke depth, because it depends on the amount of overall positive or negative ease that's involved with that sweater. If a sweater is more oversized, we can handle a much deeper yoke depth, because we still have range of motion in there for our arms that's not affecting the whole body of the sweater because it's oversized. But a sweater that's meant to fit with less ease or no ease, we need it to fit properly so that we still have our full range of motion. So I like, depending on how I want to wear that sweater, again, am I going to layer it over something? How do I want to be able to move in that sweater? Is it a sweater like this that I want to pull and I want to be able to go hiking? Or is it more of like oh, cute, I'm going to wear this to the office and I don't need to have like a full range of motion? So those are all things to consider. I personally think a good starting place is about 2 inches underneath your actual underarm. So if you have a buddy hanging around, a pal that can help measure you, you could take your measurement. You can take like an arm side measurement, which is going to be more this measurement, not necessarily a full yoke measurement, but again, it's going to start giving you something to base things off of. So you can go to like that little shoulder bone is where I like to sit the top of my tape measure. And you can get an actual measurement, like right into your armpit, and see where that's at. And then I would like probably about 2 inches of ease. So, but depending again on that range of motion, you might only want like 1 inch, especially if you're not going to layer it over anything. So just things to kind of keep in mind. So for instance, my measurement was about 7 inches, which is about 18 centimeters. And I would probably want a yoke depth of at least 8 to 9 inches to fit me comfortably for that area. And then every sweater direction, it's going to have you measure at a specific point. Usually you'll see it in the directions. A lot of times I have people measure from the center cast on edge straight down because I just think it's a really easy way to measure like a specific place, so that it's not like, wait, because it's going to change. You'll notice if you measure straight down compared to like, it's kind of like when people are doing a raglan, and if you measure straight down or you measure along the raglan, you are going to get very different measurements. So you always kind of want to measure how it says to measure in the pattern. Anyways, I'm just kind of going on tangents today, aren't I? Just a little chatty Cathy. It's probably because of this coffee I'm drinking. So anyways, I would think about 1 to 2 inches of positive ease to start off at. I think 2 inches is kind of a magic number. It tends to be a pretty good fit. And that is the tricky part with row gauge. A lot of times we specifically pay attention to our stitch gauge because it tends to be like the most important number in our gauge when we are knitting something. But in something like a color work yoke, it is amazing. Pink velvet, especially. I have seen people who have knit that sweater who the color work ends here, like way before the separation. And then I've seen other people with row gauge that's very different, and it's coming down to their bust easily down to like mid bust. And I've seen it really range by inches. And that's that difference in that row gauge. So that's where it's nice to take those measurements. And again, looking at yours, knowing, okay, that was a little too much, so I'm going to try doing an inch less than that and see how that feels on me. And next time you knit a top-down sweater, maybe even try throwing it onto waste yarn or barber's cords or a spare needle. You could even do a little steam block. And I would do this when you're about 2 inches below the divide and try on your yoke and see if you like how that's fitting. Keep in mind that once you add the sleeves, it is going to pull down on that yoke a little bit. All the weight of the sweater and the sleeves are going to shift it down. Sometimes when we first try something on, like the neck will kind of be all like up and stuff, and you're like, oh no, it's not. But this pulls it down. Okay, I just was rambling. So let's do a little show and tell, and we'll wrap up here. Okay. So I already showed you my skein that I finished. This is my combo spin, my fun little bonus swatch I got to do with the extras. That was some of the stuff I wanted to show you. So we already covered that. So I have been walking every day, and I am so busy with work that I have been knitting on my walks the whole time. But what I'm currently working on is a sweater, and it's getting big enough where I don't want the weight of the sweater to affect my gauge or my tension while I'm walking. So it just got to the point where I can't walk with it anymore, but I'm like, I'm so enjoying my knit walks that I need a project to walk with until I cast on the next thing, the next design that's small enough. So staring me in the face has been these yarns, which you may recognize from my rad plaid cowl. This is my hand spun, which I still have so much left. And then this is Kumo in Anemone from La Bien-Aimée. And I used both of these yarns in my rad plaid cowl. And they were just sitting here on my desk, all pretty and stacked. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a Harlow hat, like the original Harlow hat with these. This is probably closer to a sport weight than a fingering weight. And then this is technically labeled as lace, but that fuzz fluffs up and fills in so nice that I think I can get it to work. I think I'm gonna have to do the largest size because I think my gauge is gonna be a little small. But anyways, I'm pretty excited about it. I kind of want to have a new roll. I like to make little rolls for myself. So when I first started designing, one of those things was like, I'm always gonna have one of my own designs on my needles, because back in the day I thought I would totally just keep knitting the way I always had, knitting other people's patterns. So this morning I was thinking, I was like, maybe I should always have one of my hand spun yarns on the needles too, because it just fills me with so much joy. It makes me so happy. So anyways, I think I might even cast that on today before my walk if I have time. So hand spun Harlow. Wouldn't that be a fun little knit along? I mean, how great is that hashtag? Hand spun Harlow. Let me know if you want to do it. Okay. Then this yarn, I think I already showed y'all. So this was a Romney alpaca blend I got at Maine Fiber Frolic, and it's in these moody blues and is destined to become a pair of socks. So if I didn't do the hand spun Harlow, I'd probably cast on another pair of DRK Everyday Socks with this yarn, but I'm almost thinking I might want to, I've got some ideas percolating for the fall knit along challenge, and maybe I'll do my first prototype with this. I don't know, but I couldn't remember if I had shown y'all this finished skein. So that is a nice Romney alpaca blend. And then I shared my goals with y'all to get ready for Tour de Fleece. And I am very excited to let you know that I finished this monster spin. So this is gonna be my traveler hoodie. And that is all 5 skeins, all finished. Again, all I need to do, it's interesting how their color shifts from here. Like this one looks darker to me. I wonder if I'm gonna have to do a little alternating of skeins, which y'all know I don't like to do, so I probably won't. It's textured enough, I'm not too worried about it. It's like I have 2 skeins that I think got more of the green and then 3 that are a bit lighter. But I'm seeing all kinds of things. What's funny, it's a secret that we'll never mention again, but I'm pretty positive that this is the first skein that I spun of this, and I'm pretty positive that I rewound all my singles and then plied, and I didn't do it for any of these. And it's just funny because I'm like, I can tell. So everything we do has a consequence. But it's gonna be great. I'm still very excited. This is gonna be my birthday project to myself. So that is all done. That was one of the sweater spins I needed to finish. And then I have a literal bushel of bobbins of this spin, which I have been doing and working on, I think, for close to 2 years. I really think I started this spin about 2 years ago. So as we all know, I love my CVM from Michigan Farms, and I had bought probably 6 bags of it. So about 24 ounces, I think, back a long time ago. And I started spinning it, and it just has been a bit of a long one for me to get through. I also changed my plan. This was the first bobbin I started, and you probably can't really tell, but it's quite a bit thicker. Originally, I think I was thinking 2-ply, and then I switched my plan and decided to do long draw, and I'm gonna do a 3-ply with it. So today I finished the last bobbin. Yeah. So I just have to apply that, which will be a breeze after spinning all those singles. And then all that's left for me to finish, all that's left, is my spindle spin, which I've only got not even a third of the bag left, I would say. So I think I'm gonna do it. I think I will have cleared off all of my wheels and all of my spindles just in time for Tour de Fleece, which is kind of making me feel like, what am I gonna do for Tour de Fleece? I have my Advent I'm gonna do, which I don't know if they're calling, I don't know why I'm calling, you know, it's a daily, you open it up, and that's my spindle plan. But now I'm like, what am I gonna do on my big wheels? I'm kind of tempted to make some bats. I have got some beautiful, just undyed gray fiber from Port Fiber, and I would love to jump on the Port Fiber Tour de Fleece team. It's my local. It's what my friends are jumping on. And so I would want to use her fiber. So I'm like, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about making some bats. I don't know. We're just going to have to see. I have so much I want to do. Do you ever feel that way? Like there's just so much to make and so little time to make it. I want to knit all the things. I want to spin all the things. So all that being said, I think that's it for my show and tell. I'm just going to do like the quickest of sneakiest peeks. I am working on a non-hand spun project. This is a new design that I'm very excited about. This is what I was knitting and walking with. This is La Bien-Aimée Helix and Kumo held together. And I'll tell you what, the fabric it's creating is so delightful. So I'm to the yoke of this, which is when all the fun happens, all the shaping and everything. So that's really exciting. I'm working on that, and I actually just wrote this morning my whole list of like summer to-dos, all the designs, all the things, because we've got a bit of traveling, and I'm like, how am I gonna work and make all the things and travel and do all the things. So today I was trying to get organized. How do you get organized? How do you prioritize? I want to hear about it. All right, I gotta end this. There are walks to be had, knitting to be done, singles to be plied. I hope that y'all have a great weekend. And I have a hard time saying goodbye. I'm just gonna keep going. One last thing. I had a moment this morning where I was like, what if we started doing like one of these a month if I started doing them live? Because you can do YouTube live. Would that be fun? Let me know if y'all would be interested in that. I don't think I could do it every week because I'd have to be so much more organized than I am. Maybe I could. But I thought we could start with one and see how it goes. But if anybody thinks that would be fun or would want to tune into a live, because then we could actually like interact a little more during, be kind of like a little hangout. I don't know. Let me know if you think that would be fun, and maybe we could give it a try. So, okay, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you get to make something, whether it's with fiber or baking or just memories with your loved ones. And I especially hope to see you back here next week. Bye.